Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited about the book that I'm going to recommend today because this is unlike any book that I have ever read. Now, before I go into details, I was trying to think about how do I define this book. Is it a book on travel? Yes. Is it a book on floriculture? Yes. Is it semi-autobiographical? Yes. Is it a book on history? Yes. Is it a book that talks about India today as opposed to before, the culture, so on and so forth? Yes, yes, and yes. So, the book that I'm talking about is The Perfume Project by Divrina Dhingra. And I certainly hope my pronunciation of that is correct. So, how did I stumble upon this book? I found this book in the travel section on one of my outings to a bookstore. Just randomly stumbled upon it and decided to get it because A, the cover is beautiful, B, the synopsis seemed intriguing to me. And I have fallen in love with the book and I have gained so much knowledge. Well, okay, before we go into that, let's talk about who the author is. So there isn't much about Divrina on the internet other than the fact that she is a writer and a journalist. She attended Columbia University, the University of Journalism, and since then has worked at Harper's Bazaar, Elle, and Vogue, I believe. And she's also been part of a perfume company. Well, makes sense. She's written a book about perfume. So that's the author for you. You do get to learn a lot about the author's life through this book, actually, because it starts off with different stories of her life, the association of different smells and fragrances related to different memories, and then it goes on to her journey throughout India, trying to understand the different native fragrances of my country, the different way perfumes are made. And when you think about perfume, you think about French perfume, and rightly so. Nobody really thinks about India, or at least as an Indian, I didn't. But how wrong was I? I mean, so many of the perfumes, really exceptional brands out there, are sourcing a lot of their raw material from India. And I didn't know we had such a rich history of fragrances and such a rich sort of availability of fragrances even today. While it did make me sad while reading the book to understand how a lot of these perfume makers are, just somehow surviving, how, the topography has changed and how the climate has sort of affected the growth of different flowers, so on and so forth. But I mean, the fact that we have such a vibrant existence of perfumery in India, I was mesmerized. So, the book actually has 6 different chapters, and I'll tell you exactly what they are. It's called Rose, Jasmine, Sandalwood, Saffron, Oud, and Khus. And each of these chapters talks about the fragrance, the cultivation, the extraction process. Did I say history? The history of how it came into existence, the trade, and also the different journeys that the author has taken to be able to go to these places and figure out how they are made. As someone who uses rose water a lot, shout out to Kama Ayurveda, love your rose water. It is through that packaging that I got to know that there is a location called Kanauj in Uttar Pradesh, and they have the best variety of roses, and that's where the best rose water comes from. So I had heard of Kanauj because of the bottle, but the history of it and the cultivation of it, the extraction process, the fact that ancient methods are still being employed, and the fact that the extraction process, the knowledge of the extraction process is handed down from generation to generation just through feeling and touch. I mean, my mind is blown. I really had no idea. And I'm so grateful that I sort of stumbled upon this book because I've really learned a lot about my own country, and the fact that we have such beautiful smells. Very honestly, India, the use of flowers in our lives is very prominent, right? We use flowers for prayers, we use flowers during weddings, we use flowers. I mean, women in India, especially in the south of India, probably don't go a day without using, adding flowers to their hair. And how beautiful is that? But I mean, how many of us actually know the history of perfumery? I think I've repeated myself a few times by saying I'm mesmerized. I will not take more time. I would like to read a couple of passages from the book just to give you an insight as to what you can expect from it. And I certainly hope you are intrigued by it enough to go grab the book and also maybe, give business to some of, these enterprises that are struggling. Make in India is a great initiative, but we sometimes spend and splurge on these huge international brands when we have these brands or enterprises in our own country which we could support, and keep this dying art alive in our own country. So it was a traditional Kashmiri home, wooden, with window frames painted the blue of a clear sky, a small driveway with a border of flowers. Downstairs were the family living quarters, and upstairs, where we went, was a mid sized room. It was bare, save for the carpeted floor covered with plain white cotton sheets, on which 6 men sat in a circle, mounds of saffron between them, and the air thick with its warm, spiced aroma. The context of each rare and perfumed botanical, its origin and provenance is what completes its story. Saffron, inseparable as it is from Kashmir, seemed perfectly represented by the scene in that room. The sheets stained red gold, the firans, the low hum of Kishtwari, and the warming cup of kava offered to me, all flavored with saffron. It made absolute sense. Jasmine was a note I had learned to appreciate later, slowly and with deliberation. I marveled at its immense versatility, but it was a fragrance I could be objective about. Moreover, if there was a jasmine that I felt deserved a lofty status, it was the motia or sambac jasmine, the scent of which almost vibrates with freshness, the green notes and hints of orange flower making it so much more interesting, in my opinion, than the more classic variety. There is a popular saying the fine fragrance industry abides by: there is no perfume without jasmine. It makes its way into every fine fragrance, whether a classic floral one or one that is more modern. Jasmine is always needed. In India, this need becomes more strategically valuable because Sambac jasmine is arguably India's best known perfumery export. Its history is long and storied, and jasmine, perhaps more than any other Indian perfumery ingredient, carries the immense weight of individual memories collected over centuries. Jasmine is grown all over India for its beauty and fragrance. This is also a fact of history, perhaps more notably attested to by the documentation surrounding the stylized and verdant gardens of the Islamic rulers. So that's the Perfume Project for you. I certainly hope that you get your hands on a copy. This was a rare find for me, and I was delighted to be able to get such a wealth of knowledge. I think if you're looking for a book that gives you a lot of knowledge but also transports you to the various hills and landscapes of India, there is no other book better than this. So, until next time, when I'm back with another recommendation, please keep smiling, keep shining, and do stay safe.